Good afternoon, everybody. Just getting set up here. We're just going to bring you up on the computer, just make sure we can see your comments. We're hoping to get lots of questions today. Hard to say who is around for the live. It is Wednesday, it's 2 o'clock, and Nancy and I are here as the dynamic duo. And we're doing a little demo and a chat today. Thanks for joining us, and hello to everybody who's catching us on the replay. Don't forget that every video we do every Monday night live, they all get uploaded to our YouTube channel. So you can always catch everything after the fact there as well. And again, if you are new here, I am Heather. This is Nancy.
Hello.
We are the OG dynamic duo.
That's us.
That's us. And we are here generally every other Wednesday, 2 o'clock. There's no reason why we're not together next one in 2 weeks, right?
No, I think we're still good.
Good. Okay, so I don't know that we have any ideas on what we're going to demo and talk about for the next dynamic duo. So always feel free to drop those in the comments as well, or let us know when you see us in the store.
Sorry, it's just taking me a minute to get this video going.
I see some eyeballs there, so thank you so much for being here. So the topic today was inks, different type of inks. We were hoping to, have some conversation back and forth. Maybe you have some questions or comments about your favorite inks as well. And so we've prepared a lot of inks, not really projects, because there's a lot of conversation around the different type of inks, to say the least. But we do have a Dynamic Duo demo deal, which is the visible image, stamps, dies, and stencils. 25% off today and tomorrow.
Yay!
In person and online. So,
yay.
So I do have a couple things I made with some of those stamps. I've been using quite a few of their stencils lately, especially my dip and spray classes, and
which are so popular.
Selling a ton of those. But yeah, so 25% off. Love your curls, Nancy. Yeah, Joanne, that's so nice. That was the first thing I said to Nancy too, loving her hair today.
Thank you very much.
I know.
Thank you.
This is beautiful hair.
Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello. Okay, we see some comments now. We see the eyeballs.
Okay.
We will do our best to catch all the comments on here. Like I said, if we've missed them along the way because we're consumed with whatever product, we can answer after the fact as well.
Absolutely we can.
Yeah.
Absolutely can. Did I make a black ink comparison swatch chart? I did not, but I am going to be stamping to show differences today. So.
And when Nancy pulled out all the black ink we have, I was like, yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, so I'm going to turn the camera down so you can see this little setup we got going on here.
And I'll just, as a note. Okay. When you come in looking for a re-inker and you say you have black ink, we're about to show you in 2 seconds why it's good to know which one you need.
It's kind of important.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you don't like wooziness, look away.
Look away. Nancy's just going to turn the camera. And there's a bit of a delay, so just give us a second here. I just want to make sure we are set up okay. Hi, everybody. Oh, Joanne says she's making backgrounds using all the visible image stencils. That's great, Joanne. I'm glad you enjoyed that class.
Just half a sec.
Yeah, half a second. We don't want everything falling apart there, but it looks... Okay, you can already get a glimpse of how much ink we have just sitting here, which isn't even everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more or less what the store has decided to sell, and not necessarily just what is available in the world.
Yep, so much. Absolutely. Okay, I think Nancy's got us.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, that looks good. That looks good. Thank you so much. Hi, everybody.
Okay, do you see this lineup right here in the middle?
Joanne, guess what? The 2.0 class, we actually have dates. I'm going to have samples to Nancy right away, and we'll get that posted next week. Ooh, that's exciting.
Yes.
So 2.0 is coming.
Okay, so this even goes off camera, but all this line right here,
straight up the middle there.
Up the middle is all the options for black ink.
This is just black ink.
Just black ink. So I figure that's a really good place to start because I think it's our staple, right? We do all your outline stamping with it. Lots of backgrounds require it.
Sentiments.
Yes. So I have some white paper, and I just thought I'd show and tell for a minute. Okay.
Let's move some other things aside.
The first thing, I'm going to talk about favorites. Okay? Favorites. So one thing I'm going to say is we can give you a general overview today of inks, but there is so much to know that it really is something that you're going to have to play with yourself.
Yes.
Okay.
Because your favorite ink might not be my favorite ink.
100%.
Right.
And then the other side of it is what you're doing is different from what I'm doing.
100%.
And what paper you're using or how you're interacting with other media all can affect what ink you want to choose.
One ink is not multi-purpose.
So in the world of ink, there are two very basics. Basics. Pigment ink and water-based dye ink. So,
which one do you want?
I was going to use black, but unfortunately the black I picked.
Don't one of these?
Yeah.
No?
Oh, I can't because it's wrong. Hang on.
Oh, okay, give us a second here.
I was going to use black, but I'm just going to use a dark brown. Okay, so this is a premium dye ink. This is a pigment ink. What is the difference? Premium dye ink dyes your paper, okay? So it sucks into the paper and absorbs into the paper ASAP. We love, there are multiple dye inks on the market. I'm sure you have some in your stash. I mean, brands that we don't carry that are still good are like Pink Fresh, Altenew, but we carry the Catherine Pooler. She's a small independent company and we love her and we love her stamps. And
these are beautiful dye-based stamps.
Dye-based ink, right?
Dye-based ink, yes.
Right?
Very much so.
So, right away, that's going to suck into the paper and stay. It is not blendable. It is not, well, yes, it is. Yes. See, this is my problem. Yeah, everything has its exceptions, right?
Yeah.
It's going to suck into the paper and dry fast. That is the beauty of a dye ink. If you buy a dye ink in black or dark and you want to introduce water, be sure you're getting a premium level ink, because what can happen, particularly with black, is you spray it and it can go purple.
Yes.
Okay, so you need to make sure you have a good quality dye ink. Okay, so that's the beauty of dye ink, but it does not emboss. Okay?
Because it dries too fast.
It dries too fast.
Yeah,
so that's where you're going to want
a pigment ink.
Pigment ink. Now, pigment ink is not often oil-based, not water-based. So this is where it can be good, and it'll stay nice and juicy for you to go ahead and emboss that. So that'll stay nice and moist. I can add embossing powder to it and then and emboss that. I like pigment ink because of the juiciness of it.
Sorry, I'm going to interject for 1 second. Kelly's asking what stamp it is. We appear to have one left. If anybody's interested, this is the visible image, Where Dreams Take You. Isn't that cool? That's the big eye Nancy's using. Okay, go on.
So the beautiful thing about pigment ink is, I said it can emboss. I can emboss it. But if I want to bring and introduce in some wet media, I'm going to want to heat set it before I go ahead and do that. Because it does take a little bit longer to dry. There's still another whole level if you're going to bring in alcohol inks, but let's just stick with the basics right now. Okay, so now you're getting into, so with all these different blacks, what the heck am I going to pick, right? I've got so many.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, this is why we get this question a lot in the store. Yeah.
So I actually did some research so you don't have to. And Heather and I had a giggle. So I wanted to know what the difference is between VersaFine Clair and VersaFine is. Okay?
They're both made by the same company.
Nico.
Yes. And Nancy, what did you find out?
Nothing. There's no difference.
There's no difference.
This
is the original. It has an old school hinge lid on it. This has been my favorite black ink for years.
Mine too. I always go back to it.
This is the newer version, which is VersaFine Clair.
Yep.
It just comes in a larger array of colors, which we do carry quite a few colors. Yep. We only carry VersaFine in Onyx Black.
Yes.
VersaFine Clair is the exact same thing, different name, different packaging.
So I honestly thought that this one would be more detailed for some reason.
And some people say that.
And people, I think they're talking about micro differences. what happened was VersaFine came out with their formula, and then they decided they wanted to release more colors that they couldn't in the original formula. So rather than getting rid of the original formula, they just launched VersaFine Clair, and now they've got a bunch more colors.
That's it. They are both a fine detail pigment ink.
Yeah.
But when you come into the store and you're either going to purchase one new or you need a re-inker, you need to know the difference.
Yes, because you do not want to cross-contaminate between the two.
This is VersaFine Onyx Black. This is VersaFine Clair Nocturne.
Because to be honest with you, and I can even show you this with the eyeball.
This is important to know.
I can show you that the blacks between the two are slightly different shades. So we're talking formula when we say there's nothing different. But now maybe you like one black over another. Maybe you're really picky about your blacks. They have to be super vibrant.
Yeah, some people are, right?
And then other people are like, whatevs. So that's the VersaFine. Now I'll do VersaFine Clair.
And it all depends too. It appears to me Nancy needs to re-ink this.
I would agree.
So this might come out looking more black, but that's only because this pad might be more dry.
True. But if you look side by side, tone to tone, this one has a slightly browner tone to it than this one has a more... So blacks in the art world are never true blacks. They're made out of really dark other colors. So
pigments,
purple or brown. So anyway, the point is, you know, just depends on your colors, what you like.
And I think the point is it depends on what you love. Because I do own both of them.
I do too.
I still go to this one.
It's funny, I do too. And I think, to be honest...
Which is bizarre. I know they're the same thing.
I know. But I think sometimes when you have a favorite feel, like there's a tactile feel to putting the ink down, that maybe you don't like this pad as much as the VersaFine, or you feel like you get better cover. I don't know. But I know you can create differences in your head, so but anyways.
And while we're on this topic, when people ask me what's my favorite black ink,
yes,
this is it.
100% hands down.
Because it's a pigment ink and I add clear embossing powder. So when I want a shiny looking sentiment or outline to a stamp, I use black ink and clear, super fine embossing powder.
Which is brilliant.
Rather than trying to use a Versamark pad and black powder. Okay, I get that question a lot. This one with clear, super fine embossing powder.
Okay.
Okay.
So, now, I don't know.
Okay.
So now we still have a whole bunch of inks here, right? So we talked about the VersaFine Clair and how they come in all sorts of different colors. I can put those aside. Next, there is still archival inks, StazOn, Amalgam, Gina K, Memento, and Distress.
It truly is endless.
Okay, so and Cloud9. So these are all still blacks that you have to still continue to choose from.
Yes.
Oh, hang on, 2 blacks. All right, so how am I going to sort this out for you? Okay, so the one thing I want to point out is if you have a Catherine Pooler Designs black ink, it is the only archival ink in the Catherine Pooler line. Okay, so I would put that with this.
I didn't even know that.
And this, okay? They did that because they know people are outline stamping, and when you bring in your wet media with watercolor or
like your water brush.
Yes, exactly.
And you want to use your other Catherine Pooler inks.
Yes, you're going to want to make sure that outline isn't going to move. So you're going to want an permanent waterproof ink. That's what archival is. So this is archival, this is archival, this is archival.
And they also come in other colors.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just talking black for comparison.
Yes.
Okay. Then, okay. There's I don't know where to go next. Okay. So this, Lisa Horton, so lots of different companies come up with their version of this is the solid black ink you need for your scrapbooking or crafting. So that's what this is. It's just another pigment Cloud9 black. I would put that in the same category as VersaFine and use those interchangeably.
So to make it permanent, you would either have to heat emboss it,
Wait.
like heat set it,
Yeah.
or emboss it with a clear ink. Okay, gotcha.
Or wait overnight. Okay. Then, okay. So why do I care about waterproof? In art journaling, in making like coloring, we've already talked about it. If you are going to come in with any extra media on top of it, it will not reactivate. It's going to stay waterproof. If I get into the water-based dye inks, so that is, water-based dye inks include Catherine Pooler, Distress ink, and to a degree Distress oxide. This is where there's hybrid approaches, okay? So these will react with water. These will dry and stay.
Kelly just asked, for it to be permanent, don't you have to dry it? These, I know for sure, are archival as soon as they are dry. Whether you quickly heat set it or you let it air dry, they're permanent and waterproof.
Correct.
Okay.
Except Copic markers are another whole ball of wax.
Yes.
So we're going to address that in just a second. Okay.
Yeah.
So what often happens is every certain line is going to need a black, right? So Distress ink, way back in the day, came out with their 4 originals. What is the point of a Distress ink versus an oxide? We can get into that too. But before I get there, I just want to finish off with some of these blacks, because Julia, if you ask Julia what is her favorite ink, she's going to say Gina K Amalgam ink.
Yeah.
An amalgam ink is a fused ink between pigment and water base. Okay,
Gotcha.
so basically it's some sort of fusion between something like a VersaFine and something like a water dye ink. Okay.
Yeah.
What the bonus of is it's supposed to have the properties of all the inks in one. It's kind of your, yes, Joanne, exactly. We're getting there.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be the one ink to rule them all. Okay. So I find, for me, I still reach for my VersaFine. I find, personally, I like the vibrant black. I don't have one open to show you, but I find it a little grayer in terms of its, the way it presents, hue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But for art journaling, when you're moving fast and doing layers, it is stellar because you do not smear it. It will not smear. It dries fast. You do not have to heat set it. It will emboss. It's supposed to be, like I said, the one ink to rule them all.
Interesting.
Okay. Now, let's say you're into Copic coloring. What ink do you want? So a Copic ink is an alcohol ink. If I'm coloring along and I hit the edge of this ink, I don't want to pick it up and muddy up my color, right?
Yeah.
So you really need, with the alcohol inks, a special ink that's going to stay and not get picked up by the solvents in your alcohol ink. Stays on will. Solvent will reactivate the solvent. We'll talk about what stays on is about. Okay? But these are the 2 ones that I would say are the best recommendations for alcoholics. If you don't want Copic markers. Yeah.
Any alcohol ink, yes.
Yeah.
But like lots of people are going to have the questions about Copics.
It's about Copics. Those are the ones.
Yeah.
Okay?
And we do sell a reinker and a reinker for
Absolutely.
that. So
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, if you're getting a new pad or you have a pad that's whatever, buy a reinker or re-ink it. Likely you need to re-ink it. And a lot of people don't realize that.
We have a mantra with the Dynamic
Yes.
Duo. If you buy
an ink, buy the reinker.
And this is because it is wickedly painful if I buy 10 oxides and then I have to come back and buy 10 boring reinkers.
Yeah.
I'm bored to tears. I'm not excited to get home and open my package.
Exactly.
I need to do it when I'm buying it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about all of these. So there we go. Okay, so I guess Kelly's saying this is good for alcohol. I do know Cassandra did a test, okay? And I asked her about this last night. So Cassandra's our alcohol ink teacher. This is where I was talking about earlier. With paper, it matters. So I may be able to get away with
yes.
other papers and not have the ink bleed. But on UPO with Copic, these are the inks you need. Okay? Because Yupo has that coating which allows the alcohol ink to sit on top. And the minute I bring my Copic around, it could pick up any ink if it's not one of these that are going to dry permanent.
And really, at the end of the day, too, do your research, right? Like if you're just getting into something or you're trying a new technique, the information is out there.
It is,
obviously,
for sure.
ask us here too anytime. That's what we're here for. But do your research too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then, I've kind of taken over, I'm sorry, but then
there's so much info.
Fabulous company comes along, Ranger and his Ranger Tim Holtz and his lovely distress line. Okay. There are, we think, okay, don't quote me on this. We think there is 72 colors plus one.
Plus picket fence.
Okay. Why?
We had this discussion earlier. We're not sure if picket fence is in that lineup of 72, but.
Okay. What happened was the Distress inks came out with all their colors.
They came first.
Yeah, they came first. So I'm just going to stamp some of those and just show you. So what happened was these are highly blendable, but they are still dye inks. So they will get into the paper quickly and dry quickly. Okay. So the point of that was he kind of created a bit of a hybrid ink in the oxide. So the oxide ink has pigment and water-based dye ink in it. I don't actually recommend black soot. Actually, I don't ever use oxides. Oh, this really needs a re-ink.
Yeah.
Badly.
Bad example.
But if I'm being honest, I never use my ink or my oxide for any outline stamping. I use it for techniques.
Okay, and what Nancy's doing here too, I wouldn't do. I would be cleaning this stamp in between.
Yeah, cross-contamination, man.
There's not a lot of ink on it. It's not a huge deal.
This time we're okay, but
yes.
Yeah, don't try that at home.
Don't try that at home.
Okay, so white is a color. I'll tell you Joanne, 73 colors. White's
White
a color.
is a color. Woo!
Okay, yes it is. However, this is his thoughts, okay? Distress ink came out, but then they wanted an ink in white that worked on a black background, okay? So the only way to get any white to work on a black background is pigment. You cannot have a black background. Do you have an image for us?
I've got words.
That heart would...
Ugh. I don't know. Here, just try it.
Sure. Okay, so let me show. So the only way to get ink to show on black is to use a pigment oil base. So he came out with picket fence so that would show.
Show on dark cards.
Okay, so he considers that kind of an add-on to the line. Okay, then he comes out with oxides and adds pigment. So they have similar properties in the as in the showing on the black media. Let's see what we got. I don't want to cross-contaminate. Okay. So here's black soot, and it's not going to show particularly well black on black.
No.
But you're still going to kind of like a watermark. You might see it. But if I did,
Yeah, I'm not going to see that on there.
Yeah. But if I did, here's what I want to do.
Here, try this.
Okay.
Yes. The distress inks are transparent in color. The oxides are opaque in color. That's the biggest difference.
Yes, and both are blendable.
Yeah.
The oxide will come up with a chalky color when it dries. The distress ink comes up quite a bit more vibrant.
But
so there's
the oxide is easier to blend because of that pigment.
Because of the length of time. They call it open time. The
Yes.
length of time that you can work with it on the paper before it dries and becomes unworkable. There's way longer open time on a distress oxide than there is on the ink. Okay.
Sorry if I jumped in there too.
No, please do jump in.
So I'm an ink blender. I love to blend my backgrounds. So my go-to is oxides.
Yes.
Hands down.
So then the next question I think we would get is, then why would I need this one?
Oh, here's a good... So you want to stamp an image on the background and that ink's not going to move because I'm going to create or add water and sprays and maybe like dip my cardstock in, this is why you need archival.
Yeah.
It is waterproof.
Exactly.
These are water reactive. Anything distress is water reactive.
So what he has done is there is a black archival ink. When I stamp these two, this is jet black. It comes up very black. The distress is made to match the color of the lineup. So he's got Hickory Smoke, Ground Espresso, Vintage Photo, and more. Okay, so there's a whole range of colors in the archival that are made to match the archival lines so that you can play together. I actually quite often when I'm heading out to do a crop or whatever, I'll just grab these.
They're a great background. You get a crisp image, and if you're going to add any sort of media to it, they will move.
They won't move.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So back to, yes, I did not finish that sentence, did I? Joanne, sorry. Good. Thank you for keeping me on track. This is not the same formula as Distress ink. So mine is showing differently. It says Distress ink. If you buy this, it will say Picket Fence, because what I had to do, Picket Fence wasn't available. I bought the DIY pad and re-inked it with Picket Fence.
Oh.
I forgot I did that till just this very second.
Yes.
But, so,
it
they added...
it says Picket Fence.
It does. It says Picket Fence. So what happened was he had this ink. He wants it to be white, and he wants it to show on black. He doesn't... It's not the same as oxide, but it's not the same as ink. So it's kind of a distress white standalone color.
Yeah.
That's where I was
Which
going.
oftentimes a white is. It just happens to be a standalone because it's so different in
such
properties.
A picky, picky thing to work with.
Yeah.
And then the last black that I want to talk on is this solvent ink pad. Okay, so the number one thing with the StazOn is you open it up. It's called a solvent ink pad. You open it up, and there's this thing. Do not throw this out.
No.
The solvent ink wants to dry before you even get a chance to look at it. Like it's that's part of what it does. It is good for non-porous surfaces. So
Glass, plastic,
acetate. So I grab it for that and nothing else. It does come in all their colors. There's quite a few colors.
We carry 2.
Other than what I said, it's just not a high grab in my world.
Nope.
Okay, but it is great to have around maybe your black, just for you want to stamp on some acetate or even vellum.
Yes, exactly. Then it won't smear on there.
Yeah.
Because everything else is literally impossible unless you're heat setting a pigment ink.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So then,
I know.
okay.
Let's stay on distress for a second. So, okay. So distress oxide, because I ink blend a lot. I do that sort of stuff. I buy all my distress oxides in the large size pad.
Right.
We carry all 72 colors of the oxides in this pad, in this size, and all the re-inkers. This one you will need to re-ink more because of the properties of it. You're picking up more ink and releasing more ink when you're blending.
Correct.
So I find my oxides I have to re-ink way more than any other ink I own.
Except that I agreed.
Agreed.
I am going to say, though, but don't let that sway you because they are very juicy. They stay good and juicy.
Yes.
So it's not like a wasteful thing.
No. And in the oxide, while we're on the topic, there is a mixing ball in here because you're mixing all the ink and the pigment, like it's in there.
Needs that little ball bearing.
Need that full mix. And actually, this one needs to be re-inked, so I'm just going to do it now.
Do it.
Because people also ask about that.
How do you re-ink your pad, Heather?
Right. How do I do it?
You show us.
So I want to make sure it's good and mixed. Okay.
Over here.
Open it up.
On here. Sorry.
And I just go one way with a nice coat on there. And then I'm going to turn it. And go the other way. That's it. That's it. Close the lid.
And yes, you can over-ink them. I don't know why I say that.
Asking for a friend, right, Nancy?
Yeah, just talking about somebody who else did it.
And so, in terms of size, if you want to just have minis, which I know you've got a little tin of minis.
I do.
Let's show yours. It fits better in there. The Distress ink, the original, comes in the full-size pad or in the minis. We have some sold individually, but for the most part, we sell them in the 4-packs.
Yes.
Okay, so there's options in this one. The
First of-
oxides only come in the full-size pad.
That has to do with the formula. It does not
Yes.
support putting it in the small formula. It
Yeah.
needs a big surface to stay juicy and...
Yeah. And your distress re-inkers, which have the little topper on them, can, the distress ink, not the oxide, the distress ink re-inkers, you can re-ink the full-size pad and your mini pad.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, I know. There's a lot of information.
There's a ton of information. So,
Which one do we ink now? Oh, you're putting stuff away?
I think we could talk a bit about white again.
Okay, yes.
Okay, so there's options here too. So this is the Lisa Horton Premium Opaque Pigment Ink Slow Dry. Okay, this is the Hero Arts Unicorn Ink. Okay, I, like others, have had this, and somebody said, oh, this one's really amazing. And then I've gone and out and got them, which is why I have both in my stash. Are they the same? Pretty much. But I don't mind doing that because I work here and now I can speak to that, right? But for you guys, a white opaque pigment ink tends to be about the same. And again, it's the point being that it will show up on black.
And I also find I have to re-ink these ones a little bit more.
This one is not juicy enough. I just grabbed it out of my stash. So it needs some love. Oh my gosh, does it ever?
Yeah.
But
you get the idea of it, right?
anyway.
That pigment sits on the surface.
It does, right. So we don't have to keep talking about that. But the point is, I would go for the one your friend recommends or one you tried with your friend. Like, I wouldn't worry too much about whether you get this one or this one. I don't find that much difference.
But get a re-inker at the same time.
But always get the re-inker. Okay.
And do you have a favorite? Which one do you lean towards?
I kind of like the Lisa Horton.
See, and I like this one.
Really?
Right? So it's such a personal thing, too.
Yes, it is. It is. It is.
Mm-hmm.
So then you can go even
Pad
nutser.
facing down. Do you find this important to any of the ink pads you have discussed? Christina, no.
I don't.
Even Tim Holt says no. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They say the ink pads are set or formulated so it suspends the ink
Into the
pad.
substrate.
Yeah,
pad
into
thing.
the substrate.
Yeah.
Honestly, no. I don't store mine upside down. Everything is stored right side up, and I have zero problem with my ink. Yeah. Yeah, Unicorn ink. Joanne, that's what this one's called. Unicorn. It's made by Hero Arts.
To be honest, it's the one that has the biggest buzz right now.
Yep.
If
Yeah,
I'm being honest,
honestly,
like
exactly.
Jennifer McGuire would tell you to get that one.
Yep. So there you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Okay.
Now,
So now we're getting into different weird inks. Okay, so
they
metallic.
are not under that category in the online
What?
store.
They're not. It should say that.
Weird.
Weird inks.
Yeah, weird, unique, different.
Okay, so metallics, pretty straightforward. They are also pigment inks. That's so they can hold the metallic, right?
Yeah.
Slow drying, embossable.
So pretty.
Yeah. Now there is Lisa Horton and Catherine Pooler. We have both.
Preference.
Preference.
Slight difference in colors is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You may need them all for that reason alone.
Sure. And when Nancy says it's embossable, it means because it's pigment, you can add on any color embossing powder, clear, a color, whatever you want, because it's slow drying. It will take a second to dry, so you can't touch it until it's dry. You can let it air dry or heat set it.
Right.
But metallic, ooh, I hope you can see that. I love these metallics.
I do too.
Not the weird inks.
Not the weird inks. That's where Nancy should be. Nancy's with the weird inks.
Oh,
over
gee.
there. What's Nancy doing? Oh, she's just hanging with the weird inks. Okay, that needs to dry a smidge.
Yes. You can already see the colors in this.
Okay, so these ones are called Lisa Horton Interference Pigment
We've had
inks.
many discussions and demos about these because
They're-
last year was really all about them, with all of them coming out and such a unique concept.
So last night, so you wouldn't have to, I decided to look up, what does interference mean in art?
Look at Nancy doing her homework.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to know. And what it is the color of the cardstock interferes with the way the color presents itself.
That wouldn't have been my guess.
Really?
No. Interesting.
Yeah. So there we go.
Ooh.
So if you look at the top of the interference ink, you can see there's 2 shades. So depending on whether it's on white or dark cardstock is going to depend on how it shows on your paper. And then, to be honest, if you kind of hold it and do this, it does have a shimmer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that kind of picks up between those 2 colors.
So these aren't the weird inks. These are like magical.
These are, no weird.
So when this one dries, you'll see more of it.
More purple. It'll be more towards this purple.
Yeah.
But yeah, even if I were to, here, let's see if I can smoosh some on the side of it. See if we can get a bit
Oh,
of
I just saw a good question there about embossing too. Okay, just wait. Switching spots. Sorry, hang on
No,
here.
do it.
Okay.
There we go.
How do I, Nancy, sorry, how do I go? Oh,
There
there.
you do.
Okay, Kim's asking, if you put a color embossing powder over a white ink, will it change the color of the embossing, like lighten it? Okay, so if you're using opaque coverage embossing powder, not an embossing glaze, over white, yes, it will change the color. Yeah. If you're using a glaze, you will still pick up some of the powder color and some of the white. But if you're using an opaque embossing powder, it will overtake whatever pigment you're stamping on. Okay? Yeah.
There you go.
Need to be re-inked. Oh, at least.
I've never had that problem. I'm wondering though. Yeah, see, I don't use mine enough to say a comment. So Joanne, if that's
Neither
happening,
do I,
I'm
actually.
sorry.
I don't use mine
know.
often enough.
But I will say there is one ink that we don't have up here that I did want to talk about, and it's the letterpress inks.
Oh, yeah.
Those I
right.
do find have to be re-inked almost every time.
Okay.
But the point of those are, though, unfortunately, I don't have one, but they're oil-based. So when you put them on that metal die for pressing, they don't bead.
Right.
So they're
Yeah.
specially formulated for pressing. So that's why, but then you need to ink them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What more do you have to share?
What else did I want to talk about? So I think okay, well, because this comes up a lot. For the archival inks, I want to go back to that too.
Okay.
If you are doing any sort of, need some more paper towel, any sort of mixed media with your stamping, so which means generally adding some sort of wet medium, even if it's just like collage gel.
Exactly. Layering.
Any
layering.
paste, any layering.
Yeah.
Yes. You want an archival ink so that it's permanent. It's not going to bleed. It's not going to move once you add that medium to it. Okay, so that's the biggest thing on when we would use archival inks. So they come in the large pads in these 4 colors. This is a must. And then you can get a variety of colors in the smaller pads as well. But then there's something else to notice with this. This is archival ink. This is distress archival ink. This is dilutions archival ink, which really there's just a difference in colors, and dilutions is Diane Reevely. Distress is Tim Holtz. Archival could be just by Ranger or Wendy Vecchi.
Yep.
Color is the difference. Color is the big difference.
I would say.
But when you're purchasing a re-inker, you need to have the right one.
Yeah,
This
you
is
do.
Distress archival ink. So it would go with this family, like this kind of packaging, the Distress archival re-inkers. The regular Ranger archival inks would go with the Ranger archival inks. And this one, although a little bit difficult to tell, says Dilutions archival ink, which is the Dilutions. Okay?
Okay, Kim, you're asking what kind of ink do I need to mix with the rubbing alcohol technique. So I'm not 100% sure if you're talking about using rubbing alcohol as a blending solution, like a Gamsol. Then if that's the case, I would use Memento or Gina K. That's what I would use.
Interesting.
So yeah, so that's the other thing I did find out last night is if you're into the blending with blending solutions where you use an alcohol or Gamsol with your pencil crayon, you're definitely going to want to go along the same lines as you would with a Copic, which is one of these two.
What was I doing here? Okay. I also saw a question fly by earlier. What kind of clear embossing powder do I use? I use either Ranger or Wow. Doesn't really matter. When I'm stamping something that has fine little words in it, I definitely choose a super fine powder. Okay, so that's what I want to say about that. This is stamped in VersaFine ink, air dry. This is the VersaFine ink heat set with clear embossing powder. Might be difficult to tell, but you see a real shine in this one. And I also like this one too. It gives me kind of that border, that boundary, if I'm going to add any wet medium in here to color it too. But I still like the way it pops against if I'm going to, like, say, ink smoosh around it. So this one you can see it's still shiny. It kind of has that, you know, great feel to it. But it stays shiny regardless of what you're adding to the background too. This is a visible image stamp too, of course.
Okay. If traveling and limited space, I want to use watercolor and Copic. Archival would be best to take for both. I would take probably this one. That's one I would take. Okay, so I have one more black ink to show.
Heat set looks deeper. It does, yeah. It really pops. That's why I like it, because it really makes it like this is archival actually, because this is on a mixed media piece of paper. Because I was actually, I'll do a quick ink blend too to show you how good the Distress oxide ink blends. We were talking about, yes, this is blendable too, but it's not as smooth and creamy because there's no pigment in it. But I love the way this one.
They're very vibrant though.
They're more vibrant. So if I want to do like a smooshed background, I will choose Distress inks because the colors still stay vibrant versus the oxides are a little more opaque and chalky.
I actually know people that started out. It is a water-based dye. It's a fade-resistant dye ink. Quickly dries on most paper when dry stamped impressions are water resistant. Dries on all paper surfaces, including coated and textured papers. You know, I don't know, because Cassandra told me she would use, on my research, I've heard this is okay with Copics. I think anything that's okay with Copics would be okay with watercolor. Okay, that's I mean, as soon as you can work it with, yeah. But then I asked Cassandra what she would use. She said she hadn't used Memento, but she had definitely used Gina K. So online it's telling me Memento is okay with alcohol ink. Cassandra's telling me and has tested, and somewhere around here there's even a little test sheet where it's not even pretty because it's all schmeary, but this held up the best. So.
Trial and error.
Yep.
Kim's asking me how I did the dragonfly. Yep. So this one was stamped in archival ink. This one was stamped with my VersaFine and clear embossed first. And then I started to do the dip and smoosh. So it still stays vibrant despite that Distress ink in behind and water, right? Didn't move because it's permanent.
But you also get the resist on the emboss.
Yes, and you get the resist.
There you go. Joanne says Memento. So again.
Whatever medium you are adding, the black ink should be opposite. Should be opposite. I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
let's talk about embossing too. I don't think we did this. We should do this really quick.
Okay.
It is in ink, obviously. We have different ones. These are all embossing ink. So these are the ones that you can create actually just a watermark on your dark cardstock, or you can add your embossing powder to.
Just kind of where it started for me. I didn't even know about heat embossing, but I knew that you could take Versamark
and
create a watermark. So basically, I can't really show you because we don't have
We'll have one open. Here.
You do?
Yeah, mine's open.
Okay, so
stamp it up. So a watermark just means an impression of it.
Yeah, so you'll see the eyeball in the background. This went wild for a while. People were doing this all over their cards.
And yes, so it started with this, and then because this is a slow drying clear ink, then this is the kind of ink you can use too with like your mica minerals, your pearl powders.
Yes.
Because you can just brush it on.
Which is probably why it's versatile.
Yeah, versatile.
Anyway, you can barely see it on camera, but there's an eye there. And
if you just wanted a subtle image to a background, like
dots.
a dark cardstock,
yeah,
absolutely. Anyway, so that's Versamarking. It is a clear.
Just ruin your Versamark.
No, it's fine. I own like 3.
Okay, good.
It is a clear, slow drying, embossing pad. So it's generally my go-to when I'm using embossing powders. Okay.
Still?
Honestly, depends on the day and the reach. Okay.
True me, because I actually started to reach for this one more often.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Is it?
It's slower
Why?
drying. So if I to do things in assembly lines, so if I want to stamp an image and emboss it, I know the open time is shorter on that than it is on that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what about versus this one?
I haven't used, the only time I've used that is in a dauber.
Okay. Yes, I use it in my dauber all the time. Trial and error, personal
Right?
preference.
Right?
You can
point
buy
is-
re-inkers for these too.
Yep.
This one for sure we have on hand.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing too. Speaking of heat embossing, this one, you can also heat emboss with this.
Correct.
Any pigment ink you can use embossing powder with because it's slow drying and it will grab that powder.
Yeah. But the versatility of these clear ones is you're not introducing a color before you want to.
Exactly.
So you can keep the color the same as the embossing powder you're using.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Who knew there was so much to discuss about ink?
Right?
Right? Okay.
So we just discussed inks for about 45 minutes.
Oh my word. Just on inks.
Just on inks.
Okay. We didn't talk about this.
Do it.
Okay. So we did slightly talk about, this is the dye-based Catherine Pooler inks. Okay. They're lovely. We have a wide variety of colors. So they are great for stamping, image stamping. You've got
betcha.
great background stamps, mark making, whatever. They're beautiful. The colors are lovely.
Yep.
Another thing I find with these, they actually blend really nice too. So if I'm using like a layering stencil and I can use my blending brushes, they blend really nice. Actually, better than I thought they would based on the fact that they're a dye-based ink. There was actually some time to move them around.
Yeah.
Okay. Because some of the dye-based inks dry way too fast. You're
Way
not going
too
to get
fast.
the blend.
But
These do blend very nice. Are you okay still? Okay. I also really like to use my Catherine Pooler inks for a watercolor. So you can do this in more than two ways. You can put the ink down on a surface.
Kim, yes, you can emboss with your oxide ink.
I do it all the time, Kim, especially with because the embossing glazes match your ink colors.
Yeah.
So if I really want to make like some leaves vibrant in rustic wilderness, I will stamp with my rustic wilderness oxide pad and add embossing glaze over top.
Yeah.
But you can use any powder with it, but just saying.
Gotcha.
Okay, so then you can squish your ink pad into the lid.
Now you have a palette.
And now you have a palette. And this is just a water brush. So there's a little bit of water in it. And I can watercolor with it. Right? So very versatile. You can do this as well with your oxide. You can just put it down, pick up the ink, or with your Distress Mini inks, put it down, pick up the ink. They all do this. But if I want a really beautiful, vibrant color, then I think I'll lean towards these.
Nice.
Okay?
So
Same.
one last thing, we kind of touched on it.
I'm going to run this color
We were
out.
talking about blending with your foams.
Okay, yeah.
Okay? We can't stress this point enough. If I'm blending with Catherine Pooler, I keep my foam dedicated to Catherine Pooler. If I've chosen to do a blue foam for two different colors, that's fine, but I don't go between other inks with one foam. So when I'm using Distress ink, I have a foam for Distress ink, and then I would have a foam for oxide, and I wouldn't go back and forth, because as soon as you cross-contaminate, you're changing the formula
In your ink pad.
in your ink pad, and you can ruin it.
Yeah. So I use, I'm going to have that all over my hand now. I use dome foams with my oxide inks because I ink blend with them a lot. And I use my blending brushes, like my Prism, with my Distress inks.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
So that's how I keep that
That's
separate.
a cool idea. I don't actually keep a separate foam. I don't blend enough with my inks, so I might grab a fresh foam and then use it and then kind of hold on to it if I want. But I have this idea going on.
And you can wash them, everybody.
Yeah. So this is the actual watercolor pencil
Yeah.
trays.
This was your brilliance.
Yes. So I discovered that they fit beautifully in there. And now I have...
Yeah, all my foams, my coordinating foams,
Yeah, I just grab and...
are in the tins from my watercolor pencils.
Yeah. So I just bought the bigger tin for my watercolor pencils, put them all in one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It made me happy.
Oh, felt. If you have felt, note the original Distress tools, those are felt.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
And felt was also for alcohol inks.
Yeah, because this one says felt.
You getting it?
Yep. Oh, no, they say foam. Yes, right. So felt is the
Felt is
alcohol ink
really
ones.
just for alcohol inks. So
Yeah.
Heather's just grabbing some blending tools.
This was the original.
The OG. And then they started the foamies, which are domed.
We like the domes because you get less chance of getting that perfect kind of ring, depending on your blending.
Right. And then, of course, brushes, which...
All sizes, all brands,
Yeah. Every company seems to have
This
own.
is a definite personal preference.
I would agree with that, too. So, depending on how you like to hold it, how heavy a hand you have, is going to be what you're going to choose.
Yeah.
But for your blenders.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
No, I think we got it.
Oh my goodness. We could do like
We could do another whole one.
second day just on inks. Who knew? That is crazy.
We opened up a can of inks.
Yeah. Clever.
Yeah, I'm
So clever.
I'm a dork.
So yeah, thank you first of all so much for being here. Thanks for joining us today and again on the replay. Hope we have helped you out. Please drop a comment if you have any more questions for us or ideas.
Definitely looking for ideas for 2 weeks from now.
Yes, we sure are. Don't forget, Visible Image is on 25% off today and tomorrow in store and the online store. Thank you so much, everybody. We appreciate your engagement with us. Take care. Bye.